Let the sun shine. 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 Let the sun shine.
Hey, hey, hey. What's happening? We have the one and only Tamika White with us today, and I am loving everything about the look over there that we got going on with the whole purple blush, fuchsia. What is that? Fuchsia, purple, lavender.
This is a fuchsia floral effect.
Okay. Giving us, they say purple is the color of royalty. So you giving us royalty. I love
Yes.
it. How you doing today? What's happening?
I'm good. Now, first of all, you didn't prepare me for that theme music. Now,
Hey.
how did I not know there was theme music? I was feeling it. I was like, oh, okay, look at that.
That's my one and only Tom Mitch.
I love it.
Tom is that's my boy. He is the one and only London, very soulful, very Amy Winehouse, all of that. So welcome everybody to the show. What's up, Sham? Sham said you do look stunning, fierce.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Kim Dantzler, hey everybody, what's going on? I'm gonna let some more people get on before we get started. But we have the one and only Tamika White on the show tonight, and we're gonna be talking all things fashion and how you guys are gonna be shopping and what's gonna happen in the future, because a lot of things are gonna change. You're not gonna be able to walk in that department store and get your little beauty tips and makeup put on and all of that kind of stuff. That whole experience is gonna be shifting. Yeah, it's going to be a whole different thing. So, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. We'll let a couple more people get on board, and then we'll start. Okay. So, what have you been up to today? Bottom line.
Well, during the quarantine, it's been a ride, this quarantine. I mean, obviously, we couldn't have predicted the quarantine in and of itself, but then also all the events that have folded under the umbrella of the quarantine. So I've been kind of like riding the wave, and I felt like every time I was able to almost wrap my head around what was going on, we got another breaking news.
Right.
Life-changing breaking news. So whether it was Black Lives Matter or just even the amount of people that were dying, and then everything changing and literally it changing in waves across the country, because what was happening here in New York where we are wasn't necessarily occurring in the South, in the West, in the Midwest. So following the wave is really much what I've been doing.
Right.
There's been a lot of voices around fashion and what's been going on. And I actually intentionally kind of took a seat back because A, I didn't want to be in all the noise, but B, my personality is also kind of sit back and see what happens, and then give my opinion.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna get the show started tonight. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. We have the one and only Tamika White with us. She is a fashion entrepreneur, also a lifestyle, basically a fashion consultant in fashion. She's an author. She's also on national television. And you have your book, yes, Careers in the Fashion Industry, which is also great. She's an author, she's a creative brand consultant, and she's just an experienced fashion merchandise. She's been in the business for quite some time, and I felt that, a lot of people love to get out there and shop and see what's going on, just like travel, just like seeing events. So I thought right now we are in different phases throughout the country. Every state is doing something totally different, which is why we have such the clusterfuck that's going on right now. The numbers rising. But everybody's trying to figure out, when will I be able to travel next? When will I be able to really shop next? When would I be able to go to the next event? All of those kind of things. So Tamika, I wanted to let her come on and talk to you guys about what that shopping experience is going to be like, what it's going to look like, how industry is changing, how the business is changing. Because along with that also changes real estate. And real estate has been hit hard. Commercial real estate has been hitting hard because tenants can only allow so many people in a place in order to buy. So there are a lot of layers to this thing. Right. There are a lot of cause and effect. So we want to dive into all of that and answer y'all questions that y'all might have out there. So let's get started. So let's basically just say, starting off, how did you get into the fashion industry? What inspires you most about fashion itself?
Oh, wow. Okay. So way back when we were riding in stagecoaches, I got into the fashion industry. I always loved fashion. It called me. I didn't choose it. It chose me. And my mom talks about when I was little, I was like 3 or 4. And she said I used to take her foil and I would make like fake jewelry and she said, I don't even remember this. She said I would put it in this box underneath my bed, and she was cleaning up and she was like, what is this? This is garbage. And I was telling her, no, that's for my business. That's for my fashion business. And my mom was really, she really supported my creativity. Like she let me have my imaginary friend for as long as I wanted. So my mother was very much about supporting my creativity. So she let me have that until I no longer needed that. But apparently since I was really young, that was my passion. And I've always loved fashion, but I've always been duplicitous. So I've always been talent and business. And the reason being was, one, I loved business and I loved being in charge. But I hated being picked. So even as talent and loving being in front of the camera, I was a model with Wilhelmina. I'm a classically trained actress. I went to William Esper. I still do media. I still audition. I still work acting when I can. I never liked feeling I was always waiting for someone to pick me. Mm-hmm. So having a business allowed me to have a little bit more control over my narrative, my brand. And this is years ago before brand was a buzzword. I've been in the business 25 years. So, so that's pretty much how I got started. And I went to school. I went to the University of Maryland. That's where I studied fashion merchandising. And one of my first jobs, I was an assistant manager at Neiman Marcus and Mazza Gallery in DC.
Yeah, everybody had that internship.
While I was in college, and then I came back to New York, and to my grandmother's dismay, who had paid pretty much my college tuition, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to be a model. And then I started modeling. I was a model with Wilhelmina. But I was learning the business, and I do have to say, when I was modeling, I was a fit model. I was Nanette Lepore's first fit model. I was Ellen Tracy's fit model, and I remember being miserable, thinking, I mean, because you couldn't tell me that I wasn't born to dethrone Naomi. So the fact that I wasn't in Paris on the runway was just not how I thought my life was supposed to be.
That's why we love you so.
But God was, had another plan, and I was learning the back end of the business all the time in the showroom. So I learned more marketing, merchandising, sales. I learned how to run a business. And eventually I did open my own wholesale showroom here in New York on 7th Avenue. So I did have a showroom for a time. But that's how I learned the business, and then learned all the different sides of the business. And what I did love about fashion and do love about fashion is that it's not linear. And so I always use the example of, typically your podiatrist won't be your gynecologist, or your ophthalmologist. You will not see him when you go in to get an EKG for your heart. But with fashion, you can be a designer. You can be a stylist that becomes a designer. You can be a merchandiser that becomes a designer. You can own a showroom and then eventually become a brand consultant. You can be a fashion marketer and then open your own store. So there's so many ways to use your creativity in the fashion industry. And that's the one thing I do love about it. And part of the reason why I also wrote the book, just to show that it's not a linear industry. And then also, just quite frankly, I think we can all agree that there's no shortage of talent in the Black community when it comes to creativity. Like that, we're not short on. But I do love. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what I love about you is because you've been always thinking about what's next. You know, and so it's kind of like show business, and you talk to someone who is in the film industry, and the only thing they want to do is talk about films. But I'm like, you have to understand the business aspect of it as well, you know. So if you know how to do a good film, but if you don't know how to market the film, you don't know what contract to sign. If you really learn the business, then there's gonna be no show. And so fashion, what you've done is you really started from the ground up, like you said. And you work your way through the industry, and now you this brand consultant, fashion brand consultant, where you have people calling you, asking you about what's going on and what's happening. And that's why I have you here today, because we want to talk about that specifically as to what is going on in fashion and how will fashion be looked at as we move forward. because now we knew that everything was changing before COVID as far as brick and mortar. So, pieces were going under, certain designers were going out of business prior to COVID. And now you got COVID, and all of a sudden Neiman Marcus is like, hey, we filed a bankruptcy. It just opened up in Hudson Yards.
And I want to speak to that because, first of all, the fashion industry as an industry is a much bigger behemoth.
Right.
It's a juggernaut, and there are so many. It is very layered as an industry, so it is important to understand all facets of it. But also, it's also really important to understand how you build a brand, the trajectory of building a brand, and the goal. Most successful businesses build a brand, Donna Karan, DV, to sell it, right? So that's really the trajectory. So that's number one. So the sale of a brand is not necessarily negative, even though sometimes in the media and in the financial times, it can be portrayed as that. So understanding what's underneath the strategy, again, sorry, that's my dog. Understanding what's the strategy is key to having a successful business, but also being able to interpret and understand what other colleagues, people in the business are doing. The other thing I wanted to speak to about bankruptcy and things like that is bankruptcy takes a long time, and that kind of restructuring. And Neiman Marcus was already doing that. It came across like the ticker, and it came across your email on the top of Yahoo, like Neiman Marcus, and everyone was like, but this had been happening long before COVID hit. Now, most retailers, COVID was, the straw that broke the camel's back, for lack of a better example. But these were things that they not only had discussed, but things that may have already been in the works. So by the time that they filed, they really, in my opinion, my expert opinion, were getting ahead of their losses. See, this is, again, it's strategy. Everything about fashion is strategy. And this is what is one of, I have to say, my pet peeves about the fashion industry, because it's not a fly-by-night business. It's not driven by, I like that color, or that looks hot on you, or I love a fashion show. That's not, the business is driven by strategy, intentional marketing, and planning, growth, and trends. And those things are key to know. And if you don't know those, you can have a million fashion shows. So it's really important to understand, again, the core of the business, how it works, how you make fashion business. There's a thinking that comes to the fashion industry.
Who does that well in the industry right now?
It's interesting because the industry, and I think it may have been you, I said this too, I feel like it's like a deck of cards that's been thrown up in the air, but not because of COVID. This has been a few years. Technology decimated fashion, right? Because what it did was it decimated the fashion business in terms of the traditional way that it worked, because it leveled the playing field, which really ties into Black Lives Matter and equality and inclusivity and diversity, because part of the reason why I feel like we're so politically challenged about that is because that levels the playing field.
Yes.
Right? And that's what technology did for fashion. When Cardi B's people can go and pull from couture, and when everybody can go online and go on their Instagram and see what's on the runway, that changed the hierarchy.
Right.
It leveled the playing field. So it's a little different. I think to answer your question, I don't have one designer at the top of mind for me, or one brand or one store that is doing that, because I think we're all still trying to figure it out. But I do see brands like Tibby, right? So like what Amy did, the owner of Tibby was like the brand, and all you knew were the clothes. She got rid of that Tibby Instagram. Now Amy Smile of it. And then what she does is she is live every day, dressing every day, talking about her life. So what I loved what she did was she made it about really engaging with the customer one-on-one.
And giving you an experience.
And giving you an experience so that you feel like you're a part of the brand.
Right.
You feel like you're a part of an experience, because consumers buying experiences.
Right. No, and I agree with everything that you say, because I think technology leveled the playing field across the board on a lot of industries. And definitely when you could have, like you said, a Cardi B in couture, but then also too, she can model for Fashion Nova. And take a brand out of nowhere that you don't even know, and just take it to the hill. And all of a sudden, everybody
before that was taboo. Actually, not only was it typically unheard of, you stayed away from that. That was considered taboo.
It was. You would not even mix the two. And especially somebody with her following, having 60 million IG followers, and then put her in something like a Fashion Nova. That was like, that was a win to them, basically.
Exactly. But they couldn't try it. So to your point and to your question, that's the thing. One of the things I do love about the time that we're in now is that nothing is off limits. Anything goes. And it may work and it may not, but at least you try it, right?
That's the key to Black designers or Black people in fashion alone, is that just keep doing what you're doing, but also to understand the roots of what you're saying. It has to be a strategy to your brand. It has to be where you're trying to aim and market your brand to. And if you don't have that in place, then you're not going to win at all.
Right.
What part of the business do you think is going to be hit the hardest with fashion? Because right now we know, like we were saying, online, everybody was going online to shop a lot, right? And they were staying away from the stores. So with COVID, in comes COVID, and you can't get to the department stores, and everybody's sitting on all this inventory.
Right.
So you missed the shows, you missed the season, you missed a lot, that happened. What part of the business, and where do you feel people are going to be hurt the most, or stores are going to be hurt the most? It comes down to.
So that's a great question, and again, in my opinion, I believe it's luxury. And the reason why I say that is, so I'm a little different than like some other fashion or trend people, because even media a lot of times will drop a blanket statement like, this is how people are shopping and people are doing this. And for the most part, and again, this is a very specific demo, and for the most part, that may be how a segment of the consumer population functions. But the truth is, there's no blanket statement, and everything's different. So like mass market and people that shop mass market and shop at Ross and Kmart and Target, they shop a different way than people that shop at Neiman's. But sidebar, I can also be that woman. And when I'm in Target, I shop very differently. I'm psychologically functioning and consuming differently than I am when I walk in Bergdorf's. And when I walk in Bergdorf's, y'all better get some act right.
Y'all better get that.
I'm like, can somebody help me? And then I'm okay with it. So, but psychologically, different.
Right.
A different expectation. So I think it's one, and to answer that question, it's really important for us to segment the market. But I believe mostly luxury, and I did write an article about that and had contributed to some other articles about that. And the reason being is because luxury is about a sensual, visual, visceral experience. There's a smell, and there's a reason why there's always a fresh floral arrangement. There's a reason why you only smell Le Labo when you walk in. There's a reason why when luxury, they're dressed in black and they're offering you champagne or coffee, or there's a reason why you have that much doting attention. It comes as a part of the experience. So luxury in and of itself is an experience. When you are now greeted with the smell of hand sanitizer and someone standing there with a plastic face mask, again, it's a little off-putting physically and psychologically. And when you can't really engage and be doted on, there's a shift, there's a pivot in that experience. Now, will luxury figure it out? 1,000%. And the reason why I say that, and it's so important to understand, because there will always be that man, that woman that wants to spend their coins and wants to be treated a certain way. And there's story. Even when people were asking me about fast fashion and H&M and Zara, and they're killing. And I was like, listen, luxury will never die. There is a customer that wants that. Mm-hmm. And you don't even have to be, and even that can get segmented, because there's that customer that may not even do that all the time. But like I said, when they walk in Bergdorf's, they have a certain expectation. And when you walk in Zara, there's another. So there's an understanding of shopping. So I do think luxury will have the most to figure out, because mass market doesn't necessarily have to market their products and their goods to that customer in the same detailed way. When it's, even online for luxury, I need 360 configuration. I need to see, I need to look around, and I need to see what the shoes look like on the bottom. I need to exactly know how many millimeters is that heel.
Right.
So those are the details, though. Even when you're engaging, right? So even the training of a luxury salesperson,
right,
is much more intense and detailed than it is someone that's selling volume.
Right.
So that's the strategy, but I do think that luxury will have the hardest time finding where to level off.
Okay.
But Charlie, I don't think this is forever. I hate to sound so cynical, but I think today is just today.
Well, I think Americans know what they want. And they know, people, not Americans, people in general know what they want. And they've been accustomed to service. We are in a service industry now. What it is about. It's not about manufacturing. So
we used to live in, especially in America, predominantly a manufacturing-driven industry. And then it became service. Now it's really intellectual property and service.
There you go. And if you don't do that, then you better make sure. But the bottom line is today, and like you said, now you need to segment that market out because that market is so segmented.
Yes.
Because even if you don't have, you still want. Because I'm trying to figure out right now, it's kind of hard. I look at all the clothes that I have in my closet, and I'm wearing the same things over.
Them same three clothes at the front.
In the front.
We haven't reached back yet since February.
I don't know what's going on behind that closet. Here you go. I ain't moved front, spring and summer in yet. I'm still trying to fight with this 88 degrees. So it's the same thing. But the bottom line is too, it's hard to, when you think about now, especially for women, and I'm going to focus on y'all right now, because women, when you think about it before, you would get your bag, you would get your hair done, you get your makeup done. And when I think about that and your hair done and you will hit it, right? And go out the door. Well, now you're like, okay, it was always keys, wallet, cell phone. And now you got to add keys, wallet, cell phone, mask,
Sanitizer.
For women, there's no need to wear makeup, beauty.
Wear down.
Yeah, you're going to be hit hard now because you're not thinking about wearing lip gloss,
lipstick,
makeup, and a mask when you're sweating, all of that kind of stuff. So I can only imagine the beauty industry, which is going to be hit hard too. What's your take on that? And even walking into a department store and thinking first floor, wow, that's going to be different. It's gone are the days where they're running up to you spraying perfume because it's like, I need 6 feet. That's number one. But also, I don't even know if they'll be staffed. I don't know if it's smart as a business to hire, to salary someone that's necessarily stationed at the beauty counter that way, because we're not applying makeup, right, anymore. Right.
I mean, that can be done virtually. So I think it's important. What's a few of the trends that we're really going to see a real shift out of necessity and on virtual and digital beauty, fitting rooms, etc. But I also think that I still think it's going to level out a little bit. Like, I still think we're in the early stages. I still think we're waiting for the dust to settle. I still think we're waiting but without, it's not lost on me that certain industries have for this quarter really taken a hit, like lipstick. I mean, right. I put on lipstick for this. I haven't had on lipstick because I have on a mask all the time. So there's really, unless I'm doing a Zoom, right? But out of that, which is the other great thing about, necessity and invention, out of that comes, now I have like a Zoom wardrobe. You don't know what's going on down here. You don't know what's going on. Yeah, but you don't know what's going on down here. All you know is what's going on here. And it's fine. So now we have like a Zoom wardrobe, right? So the priority, like today, just to be really candid, I was on Zara because I was like, oh, they're having a sale. I was like, I didn't even click on anything but blouses. I was just like, from here up, that's all I'm shopping for.
Right.
The other thing too is, and I call that a smart wardrobe, which I think we were leaning to before. We have smart cars, smart homes, smartphones, and dumb wardrobes. Wardrobes that, to your point, why are we still changing over from fall to? I just think it's that's the dreaded change the closet over, fold up the sweaters. Gone are those days. We don't have the time, right? We don't want to do that. And you really do want something that can take you from season to season. And I'm not necessarily saying you're going to wear, 4-ply cashmere in the middle of August. However, you do want to be able to have clothes that have a little longer longevity, especially us in the Northeast, where we're like, it's really only hot from like June to August. Right. So my wardrobe from September to May, that needs to be a little bit more on smart. It needs to be a little bit more things that I can wear all the time. So I think that there are a lot of changes, and even in the retail experience, right? So we talked about the first floor, but then also Saks. Saks is no longer, you won't be able to use the elevator at Saks unless you are pregnant, disabled, or elderly. Wow. So you'll have to use the escalator. And these are some of the changes that, stores are having to make. And the escalators will have social distancing marks. A lot of the cafes will change. The food court in the mall is either going to be no longer in takeaway only, or it will be limited seating. And even trying on clothes, right? So even experiencing going in and trying on clothes. Well, now they're saying that you have to quarantine your clothes, the clothes that are tried on and not purchased by a customer, for 48 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's so for me, as when I have on the fashion brand consultant hat, I'm like, oh, that rings a bell for me, because now my clients have to buy more inventory. So now you're asking, stores to put out more money, because instead of one size run of this dress, they need 3, because if someone tries on the 6 and puts the 6 in the back for 2 days on a Friday, I can't put the size 6 back out over the weekend, which are my busiest days. So, so then what happens? I lose money. So, people will have to juggle that. And I was on a call with the CFDA and the Accessories Council yesterday, and we had a member calling from Dubai, and she was explaining that they're open and they had flattened their curve, but since they reopened, their curve went up, which they had anticipated. And she was saying that in Dubai, only one member of a family unit in a home could go out every 3 days. So that was monitored. And the way the stores have opened is they've changed. So the weekend is considered Friday and Saturday. The stores are open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, there's a full sanitization done of all the retail stores. And then they can start shopping again. So I thought that was a really interesting
take on it.
System that they had in place. But that came from leadership, because I was like, oh, that's brilliant. But I bet you guys have somebody in leadership.
Right. And you need, here. Right. And if you're going to do the 48-hour quarantine, then it's almost like you're open on Monday and Tuesday, off on Wednesday and Thursday, come back on Friday and Saturday, shop like that. And then therefore,
why be open anyway? So I thought that was really smart. Why be open anyway? And then, you have to really figure out, is it, well, and now they're saying sometimes it might not even be transmitted, that it's through clothing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And things keep changing, but because we have to get back to business, right? We have to figure out, retailers are really challenged with figuring out a way. And the beauty of being in fashion is that you're creative, right? So it's like really put on your creative hat and figure out a way to service your community, still bring value, and still stay open. And it's doable.
How are people coming to you? What are they asking you from your consultant hat when you're on calls today? What is the number one thing brands are looking for from you? What are they thinking? Just how to make this work, or what? How
to make it work. I got a text yesterday from a buyer in Virginia. So she wanted to know what's going on with Coterie in September. Is there a fashion week in September? How am I buying merchandise? How am I engaging? I was then on another amazing call with this amazing new platform, which I'm super excited about, called PoleQuest. And it's basically...
What is it called?
PoleQuest. And it's in its beta stages, but it's literally a digital showroom, and for stylists and buyers, which I know sounds like duh, but for fashion, which is such a juggernaut, which takes forever to pivot, these things that are being birthed out of this COVID issue and Black Lives Matter, and just trying to make sure people have access. It's a brilliant platform. It's really it's necessary. It's innovative, and I have a call with her next week. I'm super excited about. But these are what people are asking me, and that's my research now. Like, what do we do now? So, like I said, I had a buyer text me and want to know just how do I plan? How do I plan my merchandise? What have you heard? I know London Fashion Week went on. Jor hosted them digitally, and New Order is hosting Coterie later this year. But people want to know, like, but how do I touch and feel? Like, are they going to stagger appointments? So there's that part of it. Then from the brand, so that's from the wholesale side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then from the brand point of view, honestly, they're like, do I completely eliminate my retail strategy and just go
online?
Direct to consumer? She's like, why? They're like, you have to wear so many hats, and it's so much responsibility creating content around your product and your brand, and in itself is a full-time job. So I have brands asking me, like, do you think it's worth it in the long run, within knowing my business plan, knowing my avatar, knowing my customer, knowing my community and my sub-communities? Because that's the other thing, and I teach that with everyone I consult. You no longer have one person.
Right.
You have sub-communities, right? So you might have, like, Saks has many different shoppers. Now with the woman that lives on the Upper East Side that comes and puts her black Amex down. They're gone are those days. You also have, the black girl from Brooklyn that shops at Saks, and she only goes to the shoe floor. But when she shops, she shops. So you also have her. So I have brands asking me, how do I serve all of my community and all that they are, and do that fully with a retail model in this day and age? And the truth is, some of them don't need to.
Right, because a lot of stores, so has there been a increase in online shopping since this has gone on for, like, the
again, it's segmented because handbags, Google Analytics showed that the search for handbags has dropped by 37% since the middle of March. So, because the truth is, staying in the house, when's the last time you grabbed your big, beautiful bag to go out? And why invest in that? People are investing in much more comfortable shoes. Again, people that had to go to an office every day didn't necessarily have Zoom clothes or lounge wear where they were, could still look presentable but be comfortable and do all the things they have to do, homeschool and cook and go out and search for toilet paper and do all those things and still be comfortable. So
right. So you don't need that handbag and you don't need that Celine bag anymore, $3,000, because you're not going to work, you're not showing it off, you're not going to an event. So
not as much. And
I call it the monochromatic look, because you know what? It's like blue here, blue, it's like, take it all down. Simple.
And then even I was a WGSN, which is basically a trend forecaster and the #1 in the world. I work with them as well, and I read a lot of their trends. And one of the things that, Jacquemus was amazing at the top of the year. That little tiny handbag that everyone, now the tiny handbag trend is out the window. For 2021, you're going to see huge duffels. You're going to see smart compartments where you can put your wipes, and you're going to see even fabric that's microbial. There's microbial pocketbooks coming out, things that you can wipe down. Jewelry is affected because you have to wash your hands 1 million times.
Right.
Now I have jewelry designers saying to me, I have to change how I plate in order for me to stay in business, because my whole thing was my jewelry was delicate. Take it off when you went to the beach. Take it off when you did this. Now, are you going to invest in that? No, you're washing your hands 10 times a day. So jewelry is affected. Shoes, a huge shift. So initially, we were really moving back. Kelly heels were coming back, and that little kitten heels were coming back, and that little dainty mule was coming back, and which was really the evolution of the Gucci Princetown, right? So we went from that super flat loafer mule to now they were giving it an elevated heel, and that's what everyone was going to do for 2020. For 2021, you're seeing Crocs. People want to feel locked in. Like, you're seeing utilitarian shoes. You're seeing again, even more on the sneaker trend because people are doing things in one shoe. You're just not dressed. The heels are coming down because when's the last time you put on that, super high Manolo or any, whatever your favorite shoe is. Even Tamara Mellon, what she's really pushing now in all of her marketing is a lower to mid heel because you're just not functioning the way we used to function. And even to your point, the last 3 or 4 days have been busier since New York has opened. And it's a different sensibility because the last 3 days, today included, I had somewhere to go. I got dressed up and literally I was like, oh, and I thought, because I was like, I should call Charlie. I'm in Harlem. And then I was like, there's no coming over. Charlie's not coming over. You go do what you got to do and then you go home.
Exactly.
All of the days where you're like schlepping around, especially in New York, it's like, oh, let me stop by. It's closed. It's like, oh, I'm stopping by to get oysters. They're like, no, it's to go only.
Exactly. And that is what kills you the most because you're like, the socialization, which this city is based on, is just like, okay, I can get this, but I got to go outside and eat it.
Yes, exactly.
But what's beautiful about Harlem, and this is a side note from fashion, the streets are wide. And so the sidewalk cafes are just, beautiful. Right. People are hanging out. Like when you said you came to Harlem today and you felt like, whoa, what's going on up here? Yeah. Everybody's out. Everybody's in the cafe now because you got room on the streets. It's not like it is downtown. But let's stay on topic. Shauna said it would be great if I had interviewed you and Jay Norris. And I know you know Jay.
I do. Interesting, as I got that email from Jay on Monday, and he was quoted talking about some of the options that retailers were into, like profit sharing leases and, and it's, again, everyone's trying to figure it out. And I think for some brands that could work. For some brands, again, that sounds like a great strategy, but for others it may not. And then, me as your consultant, see, this is where I come in because I'm the one that's saying, okay, so in 18 months, if you can't move the inventory because it's shipped late, because Trump said China can't bring anything in, and 60% of your zippers come from China. So even though the goods are ready to go, you can't continue. We can't put them together.
Right.
Put them late, and now your landlord's looking at you like, so you owe rent and profits.
Right. And so that whole profit sharing model is great, but they need a person like you to be involved in order to curate the space on what items and what things would go together and what that experience would look like. So I think you and him and a partnership is a great thing to go to a landlord and say, hey.
Sounds like a check.
Check it. But throughout this whole discussion, what just keeps going through my mind is what a lot of consumers don't think about on the daily. You've touched upon so many things about basically the supply chain. Mm-hmm. And that's really what you talked about through all of this. Mm-hmm. And you got to understand A, B, C, D, and E, and how all this is connected. Exactly. And so when you have poor leadership, i.e. in the White House, talking dumb stuff and not understanding, we need to have a relationship with the EU. We need to have a relationship with China. We need to have a relationship with Indonesia, Taiwan, and everybody else.
Scotland. I was cringing when he was talking about the Chinese flu and the country. Not only because it's right outside of that, in my mind, I'm like, do you know how much, even Cuomo talked about that, but do you know how much we depend on China for parts, zippers? You know what I mean? Like, I was like,
everything.
I was cringing. I was like, does he even see what he's doing?
Exactly. But they don't. See, this is the thing. Everyday people don't understand this level of, and so they don't understand when you're hiring somebody to do stuff or you're getting someone to lead, they have to be able to see from a strategic standpoint how everything is being affected. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you could go through a department store and say, okay, I can tell you right now, that is not going to work anymore. This is going to work. You need to upgrade this. You need to change this model because this is not going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people don't have your expertise, point blank.
Just just even creatively. A lot of times when people come into the fashion industry and they open an online store, and I use that, for example, an IG boutique, and I use that now because that's like the trend, and it's a huge trend, and it can be successful. But if you're not following trends, then whatever you're buying is what you like.
Right.
And your store is not about you.
Right.
It's about your community. It's about the value you bring to your customer. So it doesn't matter if you like it. But then if you also are not paying attention to what affects trends. I get emails about tariffs. I get tariffs emails once a week. What tariff went up, whether it's imported wool, cashmere, because that directly affects your cost of goods.
Right.
And if people you don't pay attention, I don't know how you have a fashion business and you're not paying attention to that. To me, it's asinine. It's like, how do you not know what it costs you to get it in the country and if it's going to go up? Because if it goes up, you have to pass that on to the consumer. It's just business.
And you know what's funny? Because what was the first neighborhood that changed and flipped it in a script in a minute and knew what the people wanted? Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
You go out on 125th, they selling everything you need right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have it all.
That's also innovation in our community.
But that's what I'm saying. We know how to flip it. There's stores out there that used to be a coffee shop. It ain't a coffee shop.
Yeah. Yep.
They're selling PPE equipment or whatever.
Yep.
They know how to get down.
It's true.
Know? Yeah. So as we look at it also too, let's take the shift because we kind of talked about COVID and how that's going to impact. Now we know the industry is also in trouble because of Black Lives Matter. And because before they were already not hiring enough models, even though they were doing better with the models and getting black models, oversized, I ain't gonna say oversized models, but different shapes, different shapes and sizes of models.
Fix my lighting. You said oversized. I can't. You mean plus size?
Plus size models, but different size.
Right.
I'm sorry, America. Plus size models. We're really starting to work and do, wonders in that industry. Things were changing there, but publications, they still going through it over at Condé Nast, still not wanting to face the music. Some of the brands still not wanting to face the music with diversity, so now that, people are saying, hey, corporations, we got to hold your feet to the fire. We know what happened with Gucci. We know what happened with
Gucci stepped up.
They did. They stepped up. They got the right people in there to come up and do. Tommy Hilfiger came up. They had their little issue. There were different designers that had different things. So do you think the industry is really taking notice or paying attention and doing the right thing that they need to do in this time? Yeah. Or are they doing lip service?
I have to say, I do believe that it's a different time overall. I do believe, so to answer your question specifically, yes, I do believe that brands are finally acknowledging. I just, on my Instagram, Y7 Yoga, which is a place when I go to LA, I do yoga there. And they basically apologize because it's a hip hop studio, and they apologize for using hip hop music and not having enough of Black people as yoga teachers, basically. And I thought, and I was like, wow. I was like, wow. First of all, I appreciate you even acknowledging that and taking the time to understand that. And I do think there's a reawakening, but not even just because it's fashion. I think that energetically, globally, in the world, in the universe, it's a new day.
Yeah. And
it's an awakening. And I believe COVID, like, I said, God sent one massive email. And the subject was, everyone have a seat.
It was. Very much.
Well, it went on March 15th. And then everyone was like, everybody, you know what? Everybody have a seat. How about that?
Right.
And then, all the other challenges and things started coming not only to a head, but having to be dealt with head on. Fashion being what Black Lives Matter, we know, George Floyd, because, and the pundits have been saying that. What's the difference between Ahmad and George or Eric Garner, who pretty much died almost the exact same way. And I believe the difference is the time. So I think that now is a different time collectively. And so the world has to change, right? We have to show up and be different. Like our being, B-hyphen-ing, our being is different. We can't go back into the world and be the same because it's a different time. And ultimately, fashion is birthed out of culture. Fashion is birthed out of art. So you cannot, artists, usually we lead the charge. So I do believe that there is a real, genuine desire for newness in a way. And also, because the old way also wasn't working. Like,
and also too, if you don't have your sales, right? If you don't have your sales, and everybody knew your brand not to be in a positive light when it came to people of color, then you just
also your storytelling / merchandising wasn't working. You were missing. You were not understanding. You were missing important cultural clues and cues. You weren't meeting your customer with who they are. First of all, the customer today is the most educated we've ever been.
Of course.
The fact that you can stand there and shop, and again, technology did that. It leveled the playing field. Yeah. So you can you could have a million PhDs, or you could have a GED. If you have your phone, you can get the same information from Google. So that leveled the playing field, and so it opened it up. So brands had to offer more than pricing strategy or even a marketing strategy. You had to figure out a better way to reach your customer. So they had to, and also, like I just said, it wasn't working. And we saw that with not only retailers going out of business, but retailers having a really hard time just maintaining their customer.
Right.
Because I have a course, and in that I teach a framework that I trademarked called, it's an SOS framework. It's called Solve Over Sell. Teaches you 10 steps where you can and I don't care if you're selling widgets or $1 million condos in New York. It teaches you how to solve a problem for your customer and constantly do that. And I apply it specifically to fashion, but when you're doing that in your storytelling and in all of your marketing touch points, then you create value for that customer in their mind, and they always come back to you, because that's the only way you're going to survive now. You can't compete with Amazon, let's face it.
Right.
I never tell somebody don't open an online store, but the truth is Amazon is a juggernaut. So from a product strategy and a delivery strategy, you can't compete with them today.
No.
You can compete with value, experience, visceral experience. You can compete with connection. Amazon is interested in connecting with me.
And that's the beautiful part about,
care less. He's like, add to the cart.
And when people,
go ahead.
It goes back to what you were saying as far as your experience and what you wanted to experience. People who shop on Amazon all day long and don't want to go to a store. Then you have people that shop on Amazon just like me, probably I would say 4 or 5 times a year. But then also too, I love going to a Saks, you know, whether it be for the cafe I used to love going to the restaurant because the food was amazing. And then also the shoe department, but that was it. It was like 2 things. And then I would love to, then I'll go to a Zara or I'll go to, Uniqlo or whatever the case may be, depending on what it was and what I needed.
And that's such a good point, Charlie. And this is what I was saying earlier, because see, to Saks, especially in this day and age when competition is so fierce, you are just as valuable as the woman that lives on the Upper East Side, who all they do is messenger her, whatever, and then she picks, and then the messenger brings it back, and then next week they do the same thing, and then they know that it's her son's girlfriend's birthday, and they're sending over this, and you're just as valuable as she is. And there was a time where we didn't matter. That shopper didn't matter. But today, retailers have to understand that shopper is just your customer commitment to the brand of Saks is just as valuable as everyone else. And I think that, in my opinion, that's really where success lies for retailers.
True. Well, also there was an article written by in CNN that Joan Smalls, everybody who might not know Joan, model extraordinaire, legendary, supermodel. Yes. She gave basically half of her salary to Black Lives Matter. And, speaking to the industry about what's going on in the movement. Is anybody else doing such? whether it be on the brand.
She's also one of the highest paid, and I think that's important to speak to because she's Dominican and Black, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. And so she's like Latinx, which I guess is what the new term is. But
Latinx,
yeah. So she is able to do that, but really speaking to what it, and I can speak to that. I understand that world of being, not cast or not having the makeup for you. And listen, I've been in this business a long time. So I remember when going to a job as a model, you had to come based, right? So that you had to do your own foundation because they didn't have it, Right. They didn't have your own, you had to come with your hair straight. At least I did, because they couldn't blow it out. So prepping for a job was took me 2 and 3 days prior than it would another model. So Joan has not only made strides, she's one of the highest paid, and she's very successful, and I'm a pillar in the model community and in the community. So and also what she's doing is, extremely admirable, and I love that. I think that everyone should and can do what everyone should and can do. Right. So I don't know if in my opinion, again, it's just my opinion, but I don't know. I would never say, well, everyone needs to give their salary or everyone needs to. I think people need to show up in the way that best serve the people that mean that their community, right? Mm-hmm. So Joan's community, that she has a large voice and she has a huge platform, but there may be someone else that has a business and they may say, you know what, I want 10% of my business for the rest of the year is going to go to BLM or NAACP or whatever they choose. Mm-hmm. We're all figuring it out, and
do you see people trying to, because I know it's happening, and I spoke about this earlier this week, a lot of people are trying to get people in saying, okay, can you give me the experience of what's happening for Black people, making Black people speak about their town hall experience of being Black. Did you have anybody want you to do anything such as that? Speak on.
I haven't had anyone want that per se. I have gotten personal emails from large white influencers, white brands that were genuinely just like, one of them, the subject line, she was like, I'm embarrassed, ... and she's like, excuse me, my allergies. She was, she's like, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I don't have enough, that I have this amazing, huge platform that I've built, and I'm so white, essentially. She's like, I didn't even realize how I was using my privilege to not help anyone else. And, and I'm sorry. And these are the things that I want to do. And I'm having my media coach, one of them, she was the same thing. She's like, I struggled with this. I sat with my husband and she's like, I really want to use my voice to make sure that I don't continue to function in a way that disvalues or even culture appropriation, but doesn't really give credit where credit is due. So I've had a couple of those conversations. I've also had some headbutting conversations with media and fashion colleagues. I have to say that haven't been that pretty. But I think, again, people are, at least in the community that I'm in, are still trying to figure it out. And there's some great things happening and some things I want to be a part of. And I'm just waiting to the other colleagues in the business and other names that a lot of people know. So I'm just waiting to see like where those things, the dust falls, the chips fall with that. Right. It's an ongoing conversation. That's the other thing.
Right. Right. Well, Shauna said here, shopping online can also be less stressful because you're not being followed, harassed, or ill-treated, which I think drew a lot of people to shop online because you just didn't want that experience,
right.
Going into a store, being followed, thinking you're going to steal. You can get the same product and get it shipped to you. I agree 100% because there are times I've been in the store, of course, you walk in and somebody follows you, and I have a way of doing that, killing them with kindness nowadays. Mm-hmm. I've learned over the years, and make you look stupid, but that just comes with, how we do. Mm-hmm. So what's next for you? Because we're running out of time with ending this.
Oh, look at that. So what's next? So a few things. I am going to be on let me look at my notes because I do have a few things coming up. So the Power Players Conference, which is run by her headquarters, which is a woman entrepreneurial platform. I'm super excited about. That's June 30th through July 2nd. And I'll be speaking at that. It's virtual, of course. keynote is Beatrice Dixon, who owns the Honey Pot.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, and there's 30 other entrepreneurs, and there's the workshops are broken down by like the new entrepreneur, the mini mogul, and then people that have been in business for themselves 7+ years. So that would be me. I've been 25 years. 25 years. I've my own entrepreneur. Never worked for anyone else. Mm-hmm. So I'll be talking about entrepreneurship, and I'll be teaching again over frameworks, because it's really, I find. So, Joan is donating and people are donating and I've donated, but I find that my experience and wisdom is really where I can give back. And I really want to teach people frameworks for success.
Yes.
Every time you post or every time you get a new product that you're adding to your site, you have a framework as to how to communicate its value to your customer, because consistency is going to keep you profitable. So I'm teaching that framework there. And then I'm launching an online course in July, which I'm also super excited about.
All right.
And it's 5 weeks, and it's how to grow your fashion business.
Okay.
And it's basically helping me scale and reach more clients and customers, which I was doing before COVID, but obviously it's really important now. And I work with, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you pointed that out, because what we cannot have this conversation and be remiss about not talking about Black-owned businesses,
yes,
Black businesses, and making them successful, and making sure that we shop Black and that we are
intentionally shop Black, and intentionally when you open up and go to Amazon or Target or whatever, try to find what Black business offers that product and support them intentionally. So that's super important. And again, another reason why I launched the course was because, as I was saying earlier, is I found in 25+ years of being in the business, and I've been in rooms with Holt Renfrew and Anthropologie and the mom and pop boutique in Greenwich to Nigeria and Cape Town. And what I found, like I said, is there's no shortage of creativity, but there seems to be a disconnect between understanding how to have a successful business. So I always call it like life after the fashion show.
Right.
Fashion show. Like after the lights go down, now what? So another reason why I launched that course is I wanted to give people frameworks, tools, like your business is your curtain rod, things you can hang on your curtain rod that always work for you. And you can tweak, as your business grows, because you will need to do that, but you at least have a core, and you're not kind of like just trying to figure it out. Everything is not like fly by night. You're figuring it out as you go, because business is challenging enough.
Right.
Then I have a couple other things. I'm speaking at Fashion Innovation, which is a huge virtual fashion platform. They just did one in June, and they're doing another one in September. So I'll be one of the speakers for that.
All right.
I've been working on a couple of other things. I'm working on some projects.
Here you go. I know you are. Mm-hmm. So why don't you send all that to me, and I'll put it in the post.
Okay.
Well. So it'll be tied to you.
Okay.
We could talk all night long. We can.
I know.
It's already an hour. So I want to appreciate your time and your expertise, and let people know that there are Black people in the business that are doing the damn thing all over, throughout, and you're layered throughout, and all the work you've done. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep keeping those master classes out there and help you survive and being innovative as you always are and have been. And I just want to thank you for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. This was
all right.
Fun. This was fun.
It was. So enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you virtually.
Yes. Cool. Yes. Good night. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
All right, baby. Thank you. Take care.
Let the sun shine.